All right, welcome to the South Plaza of McLean Stadium in Waco, Texas, right in front of the RG3 statue. Kurtis Quillin, John Morris in for Week 2's Big 12 breakdown. John, college football's back.
Let's do it, man. It was a wild weekend, a fun weekend. There were some really good games, really close finishes through the weekend. Baylor took care of business, so It was a fun weekend.
You talk about Baylor taking care of business. What was it, 69-10 or 69-7? The final. I've lost track of the number of points.
Yeah, let's give them 10.
Thoughts on the game?
Did some really good things. You have to factor in it was an FCS school in UAlbany, and man, did they have cramping issues.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it was hot, it was humid, and you could tell the team from New York, just wasn't acclimated to it as well as Baylor was. But to me, that says a lot about our strength and conditioning. I didn't think we had any issues cramping at all, and credit to Vic Valoria and our strength and conditioning staff. So that was good, and I think the coaches got out of that what they wanted, and first time under the lights, first time on the field, you get a win. Now you step up a class in weight this week.
You go up from an FCS opponent to a contender every year in the top 25 in BYU. Blake Shapen looked really good in that first half Saturday against UAlbany. Did you think the same thing?
I did. I thought, yeah. And he played the first series of the second half, right?
Yeah.
But I think very poised, he just didn't look like a guy. I know he started 2 games last year, but he didn't look like a guy that was the starter, for the first game.
Right.
So I like that moving forward. And then Kyron Drones, who came in, he did some good things also.
And the defense really did what it was supposed to do, which is something that you always worry about week 1, no matter who the opponent is the defense doing what it's supposed to do? Sorry, it is ridiculously humid out here
It's
right
hot,
now. Jackson Player looked good up front. Siaki Apu Ika, all over the place at the defensive tackle position. That's going to be a key for the Bears this coming week, but did you like the defense?
Yes, very much so. I mean, you held them. They scored 1 touchdown, and that was after Baylor failed to convert on 4th down and 1, gave Albany a short field. And they, to their credit, they scored there and then got a field goal later. But to hold them to 10 points, I think was really good. And not just that, but just the way the line played, the way the linebackers played together. Secondary, a lot of new faces in there. So I thought it was really good.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. So we've talked about a big step up this coming week. Baylor BYU. It's a late kick, the latest kickoff I can think of in a long time for Baylor.
I think you're right.
Later than any of those East Coast games against like Buffalo.
You remember the Cactus Bowl?
Right.
You remember that one?
That's about what this one kicks off at.
I think so, yeah, about the same time.
So if you can get acclimated to, have you heard from Coach Aranda? How do you get acclimated to a 9:15 body clock kickoff?
Yeah, I don't think for the players it's a factor at all. They're just getting going, at 9:15 on a Saturday night or any night, really. So I don't think it's a factor for them. The only issue I would think, and I don't think they'll talk about it this week because you don't want to put any thoughts in anybody's head, but it's just a long day sitting around the hotel. So maybe they'll do some things to get them up, get them out a little bit, instead of just sitting around all day. So.
Right.
To me, that would be the only concern.
Rule used to talk about that. Matt Rule used to talk about that. He loved the 11 a.m. kicks because you get up, you eat, you get on the field, you play the game, you go home.
That's it.
But those night games, you sit around the hotel quite a bit, you pull up to the stadium. In this case, 6 o'clock, 6:15 Mountain Time Saturday night is when they'll actually get to the stadium, and then kickoff's 2 hours later. And so you have that period of all day where how much film can you watch on the day of the game? How many meetings can you really have on the day of the game? But that said, let's keep talking BYU. Let's go 3 big keys for Saturday's game.
Yep.
You want to go first?
Number one, got to improve the running game, or continue improvement in the running game. This will be a much bigger test this week than it was last week. Baylor last year in the win over BYU right here at McLean Stadium ran for 303 yards, and that was a huge part of the victory. And I think Abram Smith had 188 maybe.
Right.
So, you've got to have a running game against BYU, and it's got to be better than it was last week.
Okay, so mine, I'm going to say Blake Shapen in a hostile environment.
Yep.
This is not K-State. K-State's a remarkable fan base. BYU has won Heisman trophies, has won national championships. This is a way different ballgame out at Lavelle Edwards Stadium this week. I want to see Blake Shapen handle the hostile atmosphere. Basically what that boils down to for the offense is weather the storm. There's going to be home field advantage. You have to understand that things are going to happen. You got to get past those things And on to the next thing is, I feel like Dave Aranda would be proud of me for how I worded that.
I like that, yeah.
Second is the secondary. It doesn't matter whether it's a pass play or a run play. You cannot let things get past the second level on the defense. And then third is penalties. Penalties plagued Baylor in every game away from McLean Stadium last year, and in a few games that were inside the friendly confines. Can they control those Saturday night? To me, those are the three main keys against BYU.
So I was supposed to give you all three of mine at once? I thought we were going back and forth.
That's on me.
Okay, no problem. Here's number 2 for me, is handle that atmosphere.
Yeah.
Remember last year, I know you do, in Stillwater, Baylor kind of spit the bit there, and it was the first real test. We'd played at Kansas before that, but it was the first real test in a hostile environment, and I think some of our guys walked out onto the field there at Boone Pickett Stadium and kind of, oh, man, what is this? We haven't seen this, and sort of played that way. But they learned from it, and it helped them later in the year or over the course of the year, and I think that'll help them on Saturday also, because they've been in that kind of environment, and I know they've been talking about it. You remember the press conference Monday? Somebody asked Coach Aranda about that, about Stillwater last year. What have you learned? How's it going to help? How do you prepare for that? And he had a real quick answer. We've been preparing for that since January.
Yeah.
So I know it was a big deal to them, and I think for that reason, I think they'll be much better prepared for this one. The other thing would be I mentioned the running game, and I would say the defensive line also, held Brigham Young to 67 yards rushing last year. Remember Tyler Algier, who's now with the Falcons in their camp, he was highly touted coming in. He only had 32 or 33 yards, I think, himself.
He had some big ones, some big, not in yardage, but he had some very key runs for the Cougars.
That's true. But they handled the running game, to the tune of only 67 yards total. So, if you can do that again, they've got a guy named Chris Brooks now, transfer from Cal, maybe in the same mold as Tyler Algier. So you got to control that. And again, it kind of comes down to both lines, how well both lines play in this game.
You mean Kalani Sitake has a running back again this year?
Shocking, right?
Right. This is a really good BYU team. I mean, this is. Do you think this becomes I think this has the makings of a really fun, religious rivalry in the Big 12 come next summer.
I do. I love it. I really do. And this is kind of a precursor to all of that. But playing them last year here and this year in Provo, and then they come right into the Big 12 next year. We don't know that schedule yet. But I think it's really cool. I think they are. I know this. There's great mutual respect between the two coaches and the coaching staffs. Coach Aranda and Coach Sitake, great respect for each other. Coach Aranda knows several of the guys on their staff. Of course, Jeff Grimes and Eric Mateos here came from BYU, so they know everybody. So there's that, that bond sort of, of knowing everybody and the respect that they have for the two programs. And I think that's really cool. I think we'll see that continue to grow.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's still a couple of offensive linemen on this depth chart at BYU that Eric Mateos coached.
That's probably right. Yeah, he hadn't been gone but a couple of years.
Right.
So, yeah.
So this is going to be a really fun kind of atmosphere. Do you want to make a prediction on this one?
I'm not good at predictions.
I'm not either.
I think Baylor's going to win. It'll be really tough, but this is part of that road schedule that Baylor has to navigate this year. And I'm never going to sell Coach Aranda short. No. I mean, never. So I think it would be a huge win if Baylor can do it, but I think they can.
I think it's a close one.
Okay.
I'm with you. I think Baylor wins a close one. As for whether it's a lot of offense and a really, really late night flight for you,
right,
or a defensive struggle all night, I'm not sure. But I think Baylor wins a close one. I'm giving the edge to the Bears simply because Baylor has more returning pieces in key places than the Cougars do from that game last year.
Yeah.
Tyler Algier being one of the pieces that you mentioned. Is gone.
Now, Jaron Hall's back. He's their quarterback, and he's a junior now, so he has another year experience. He is really good. Coach Aranda said this week, one of the best quarterbacks they'll see all year. So, that's a factor for them also in their favor.
And he played very well. He made some very nice throws last year.
Right.
And I think that might have been his first game back from injury.
Yeah, might be right.
Year.
I don't remember exactly.
First or second, for sure.
But they threw for over 300 yards, right?
Right.
Last year against Baylor.
And they hit some 50, 60-yard throws to set them up, right before half and mid fourth quarter to try to make it a game there at the end. So the offense is capable of striking like that with Jaron Hall under center from any moment in the game.
Yeah.
So you look at the other Big 12 results from this past weekend as we go through a little bit of a Week 1 Big 12 review. What result stands out to you the most and why? For me,
Okay, go.
TCU over Colorado.
Yeah?
Because Chandler Morris, until his injury, looked amazing.
Yeah.
And, Max Duggan comes in to replace Morris after the injury, looks really good, but they completely changed the offense at that point and went to more of an option attack than a spread like they had with Morris. So TCU overmatched a Colorado team that maybe last year it doesn't overmatch it in quite this way.
Yeah.
And so that's a good thing. But now the question is, what the heck are we going to see from the Frogs moving forward on offense if Chandler Morris does have to miss a week or two with reports that it's not that serious of an injury, but they're playing Tarleton State this weekend. So if I'm Sonny Dykes, and I'm not, I'm holding him out.
Sure.
No sense in risking
I think so.
one of my best quarterbacks over an FCS game.
Right. I think so. And it's kind of a, it's an embarrassment of riches for TCU.
Yeah.
If you lose Chandler Morris, you got Max Duggan, who has been a starter in the past. You plug him in there, and I think you're in good shape with him.
Right.
Yeah.
Which result stands out to you?
In a loss, West Virginia. I think they played well against Pittsburgh in that environment. Pick six late, and Pittsburgh won the game by 7. But I thought West Virginia played really well against a team that was number 17 in the nation last week, and I was really pulling for him. I like Neil Brown a lot. I was pulling for him and pulling for West Virginia, but just to play that close and to play well, I thought that was really, really promising for West Virginia.
A couple of steps away from a chance to win the game or tie the game there at the end, because as good as that throw was there at the end, he was just a couple steps apart. The receiver and the ball there on what was initially ruled a catch, but what an amazing atmosphere. How mad are you at college conference realignment that we lost the brawl for 11 years?
I know, that's sad. Realignment does that to a lot of rivalries, doesn't it? And probably more on the way.
I mean, shoot, we're not gonna get the game back here in our state until next year, maybe.
Yeah.
With Texas and Texas A&M, the team I've got more questions about this year in the Big 12 is going to be Kansas, and I mean that in a good way. Kansas really overmatched a team that it should have overmatched, and kind of like we said about TCU, it probably wouldn't have last year against Tennessee Tech. So what's in store, I think, this week when they play? It's either this week against Duke or Houston. I think it's Duke this weekend. That's a really key indicator for the Jayhawks.
That was a good win. I mean, they did what a Big 12 school should do against Tennessee Tech, Give them credit, 56-10, wasn't it, against Tennessee Tech. So well done by Kansas. They get that first win. They actually play West Virginia this week. They've got a conference game. Right, and it's the first conference game of the year, and it's in Morgantown. So that'll be a step up, obviously, and it'll be tough, to play there and win there. West Virginia coming off a loss, a little extra time to get ready. So it'll be tough for Kansas. That was a really good win for them, doing what they should have done in week 1.
We could be sitting here in December talking about how impressed we are with a 4-8 Kansas team because of just the way that they did their business this year. And that's when you take care of business like that, you got West Virginia this week, and we're both talking about how impressed we are with West Virginia after a loss to one of their biggest rivals. And then it's kind of back through the meat grinder. Then you got Houston and Duke to close out non-conference play for the Jayhawks.
That's tough.
Definitely a team I have questions about, but not all in a bad way.
Right.
And that's usually kind of what that means, that phrase.
I think part of their win over Tennessee Tech was they had a full offseason. Remember, Lance Leipold was hired so late. They didn't have spring. No spring. And you throw him in late, he's got to put a staff together. It's that late. But now they've had a full off season leading into this game, and I think that was part of the result also.
And if you're wondering, if you're having trouble remembering, Lance Leipold was a late hire because Les Miles was fired. Kansas made a change at athletic director, and they had to hire, and they didn't want to hire the head football coach before the AD, so they hired an AD first, and then the AD came through, made his hire, and it wasn't a single finalist situation. A lot of reports with a lot of really good candidates for that job, and they wind up with Lance Leipold. It worked out last week. We'll see what they do on Saturday. Let's get into this week's action on the gridiron. let's do.
I'm going to say best game of the weekend is Baylor BYU.
I'm going to agree with you on that.
Everybody else is saying, what about the game in Austin?
Right.
That's a big game, obviously, when you've got number one. But I think Baylor BYU is the best matchup of the weekend.
I think it's the best matchup and makes for the most entertaining game.
Yeah.
I don't think Texas-Alabama is close for all that long Saturday. Sorry if that's breaking news to anybody, but I think Alabama's really good.
Yeah, I think so too.
We haven't talked about it yet. That says, to me, how good some of the Baylor BYU aspects are, but we'll talk about it now because it is the first game off the line Saturday, 11 a.m. Central Time on Fox from Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
It's number 1 Alabama, the reigning national runner-up in the Texas Longhorns. I think Texas has a really, really steep hill to climb here.
I think anybody that lines up against Alabama does, but it's just going to be tough. There's the background of Steve Sarkisian, former Nick Saban assistant, and I don't know. It'll be fun to watch. Game Day likes it. Game Day's there, and the Fox Big Noon Kickoff. Both are there.
Both pregame shows.
Yeah, and the game's on Fox, so they think it's the game. And it'll be fun to watch. That starts the day at 11 a.m., and then you can finish the day with Baylor BYU till after midnight.
Right. To me, the biggest key is Bijan Robinson has to be Bijan Robinson on Saturday because I was at Texas A&M and Alabama last year when A&M pulled the upset. Nick Saban became the first Nick Saban disciple to beat Nick Saban.
Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah. Jimbo Fisher became the first Nick Saban disciple to defeat Nick Saban.
Right.
Well, he out-Alabama'd Alabama in that game. And if there's another assistant who can manage that with his staff, Kirby Smart did it in the national championship game. It's going to – Steve Sarkisian's another former Alabama assistant under Saban. He's going to have to figure out a way to use his guys to out-Alabama Alabama. They did well against Louisiana Monroe. Monroe is not Alabama.
Right.
Not that I'm breaking any news to anyone by saying that. Bijan Robinson is the key to this game for Texas because the secondary is going to be there to defend Quinn Ewers on the pass attack. They're going to have to win it and be more physical and more present up front than Alabama is.
Yeah. What's the guy's name, Will, in the defensive front for Alabama? Is it Will Davidson?
I think so.
It's Will, I know, because they refer to him as Wildebeest. But, that guy... That guy, watch him. I mean, you got to control him because he is just unbelievable.
You're not going to stop him. You have to basically rework your offense to get around him.
Yeah.
He's very, very good. Another 11 a.m. game from Manhattan, Kansas. This one's a former Big 12 rivalry. It's the Missouri Tigers and the Kansas State Wildcats. Neither team is ranked. I like Kansas State in this one. I think they needed pretty much just do more of the same from last weekend.
Yeah, very much so. And remember last week we were talking about K-State, and a lot of people really like them as a sleeper pick in the Big 12, and this is the next step for them. They they did what they should have done last week, and now a little bigger game, a little bigger opponent against Missouri this week.
There's a lot of talk that maybe the Elijah Drinkwitz era is not going well in Columbia, so K-State, if you can capitalize on that, you could prove a point for your team.
Yeah.
In that process as well and take advantage or do what you're supposed to do against a team that maybe isn't in the best headspace at the moment. 3 p.m. Central Time from Lubbock, Texas, number 25, Houston, and the Red Raiders of Texas Tech. Joey McGuire not taking it easy. He gets Murray State last week, does what he's supposed to do against an FCS team. Congratulations. Here's your future conference bunkmate and a top 25 team predicted to win the American. But Houston had a lot of trouble last weekend on the road, and they're back on the road this weekend.
Yeah, which may be bad news for Tech. Houston having to, struggle to beat UTSA, but they did it. They found a way to win. This is a really good matchup. I look forward to this one. Tech beat Houston in Houston last year, and then U of H, kind of rolled right after that.
Right.
But this is a tough Week 2 game for Joey McGuire in Texas Tech.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think the Alamo Dome has been a little bit of a house of horrors for Houston over the years since UTSA moved into Conference USA, because I think that UTSA has beat them in the Alamo Dome before and come close to it in Houston. So how much of it is they just can't figure things out in San Antonio, and how much of it is maybe Houston isn't what we thought they were going to be, and maybe the Americans taking a step back this year? I think we'll have those questions questions answered here. I think Joey McGuire's got a really tall task ahead of him, but he's got NC State next week. So, pick your poison at that point. So,
new quarterback, Donovan Smith looks like will play. Tyler Shuck not available, went out of the game last week. But, again, that's a pretty good backup quarterback to be able to plug in.
Exactly. That's one of those names that we thought would have a chance to win the job coming into the season.
Right.
I like Houston in this one, but I think it could get close, especially there late with McGuire's squad. I
think it'll be really fun, and one of two future Big 12 schools, playing Big 12 schools this week.
Exactly. 3 future conference matchups if you're scoring at home with Texas and Alabama. Another 3 p.m. kickoff.
Oh, yeah, that.
Another 3 p.m. kickoff on the Big Ten Network on Saturday. It's the battle for the Cy-Hawk Trophy. It's the Iowa State Cyclones and the Iowa Hawkeyes from Iowa City. Can Iowa score a touchdown Saturday?
What'd they do, 7-3?
7-3, 2 safeties and a field goal.
Yeah,
The
How
defense outscored the offense. Yeah. And people, fans on the broadcast were calling for Brian Ferentz, the offensive coordinator, to be fired.
Oh my
His
gosh.
dad is the head coach at Iowa.
Yeah.
So do with that information what you will. I like Iowa State, but you have to do what you do. You have to pretty much copy over was it North Dakota or who did that? North Dakota, the game plan against Iowa, where you keep Iowa out of the end zone, you have a pretty good shot at winning.
Right. And, it's a rivalry game. It doesn't get any bigger, really, for those two than playing each other in week 2. And Iowa State, Hunter Deckers did a good job last week, so now he's got, that experience under his belt. I think his first significant playing time was last year against Iowa, so he's been in the fray, against the Hawkeyes. So this one will be fun, This will be really fun to watch.
These rivalry games are always a blast,
yeah.
And I love the Cy-Hawk game. Last year it was a college game day game, 2 top 10 teams. This year, not quite there.
Right.
It's on relegated to the Big Ten Network, but I think it has a chance to be a really interesting matchup. And a good note for Baylor fans who want to travel, I think with kickoff time for the Baylor-Iowa State game being released Monday, if Iowa State wins, maybe we're looking at it at 2:30.
Oh, that'd be nice.
You have a chance to wake up and get breakfast before kickoff.
I like a good 2:30 kickoff.
You and me both. 5 p.m. Saturday Central Time. From Morgantown, West Virginia, it's the Kansas Jayhawks at 1-0 against the 0-1 West Virginia Mountaineers. I like West Virginia in this one. I don't know what to make of Kansas after Tennessee Tech, though.
Yeah, I like West Virginia at home, coming off a loss, a little extra time to get ready. But this could be telling this week. Neil Brown at one point this week kind of released a statement saying, hey, don't give up on this team. And to me, why do you have to say that? Y'all played well against Pittsburgh. It's just one game.
Right.
He's probably feeling it a little bit. So West Virginia needs, for their sake, the need to win this game.
And that was a really just emotional gut punch of a loss. You can see the look on his face in his post-game press conference in Pittsburgh, and he looked like he had just run into a brick wall.
Yeah.
And he looked mentally drained from that game. But that speaks to that rivalry. I think West Virginia wins in this one, whether it rolls or not. Time will only tell on that one. Then we have some night games over the weekend. We have a 6 p.m. kick in Norman, Oklahoma. It's Kent State, Oklahoma. I think OU overmatches the Golden Flash.
I think too. Name the score.
Arizona State at 1-0 visits number 11, 1-0 Oklahoma State at 6:30 p.m. on ESPN2. Matt Lively and I have a bet. The loser of that game, because he's an Arizona State grad.
Right.
I'm an Oklahoma State grad. The loser of this game has to wear the other one's colors on the air.
The
next day that they anchor after the game.
So very good.
I'm pulling for Oklahoma State in this one. Shocker. I think OSU is the better team.
Right.
I think it is.
I do too.
I think it's back to being Oklahoma State. I believe Alex Kirshner on the Split Zone Duo podcast said it. OSU is back to being Oklahoma State. None of this where Oklahoma State has a really good defense and an offense that can't move the ball. They let up 20-something points against Central Michigan in the fourth quarter, so you can't do that against a Power 5 team.
Right.
But I think OSU's offense is figuring out how to move the ball. Did it really well against Central Michigan? Can it do it really well against Arizona State as well?
Yep, in Stillwater.
In
Got
Stillwater.
the home field advantage, so I like Oklahoma State here to get to 2-0.
More night action. Really good night slate for the Big 12 this weekend. Obviously, the next one is Tarleton and TCU. That's a 7 p.m. kick in Fort Worth. I think it's TCU. As for how many, I think it depends on whether Chandler Morris plays or not.
Tarleton really upgrading their program, moving up to Division I. They've done some great things on campus. They've done some great things at their stadium, around the stadium, and they have really made a commitment to move up. But then to do it, scholarship-wise and be ready to play a Big 12 school like TCU, that takes a little time. So I think TCU wins this one.
Exactly. And honestly, another thing from that podcast, Splits Don't Do It, they kind of call it cronyism for good.
Yeah.
That paycheck from this game for Tarleton State, we could look up in 5 years, and this money really kind of helped them build more things for their football program down the line. And then the final game of the night, we've already discussed. It's 9th-ranked Baylor, 21st-ranked BYU. That is a 9:15 p.m. Central Time kick on ESPN. John and I will both be there. John gets Friday night to go and get some really good food in Salt Lake City.
We're going to Sundance Resort.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll run into Robert Redford up there. What are the chances? What are the odds?
I think you have good chances.
I'll tell you. No, I think it's a long shot. I don't know if our crew goes to the same place that Robert Redford hangs out. But so Baylor played at BYU home and home in the 80s. 83 was here in Waco, huge Baylor win. 84 was in Salt Lake City. I did not go to that game. That's the year BYU won the national championship. It was before I was doing radio. But Frank Fallon loved to tell the story. They went to a dinner, like a Baylor group on Friday night, and Robert Redford was there. So maybe it'll happen.
I believe it was.
Maybe it'll happen.
I believe it's. Is it Steve Carell? So you're saying there's a chance.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Jim Carrey. So you're saying there's a chance. Well, John.
More of a chance there than Robert Redford coming here. And you know who's doing TV, right?
No.
You know who's doing color?
RG3.
That guy right there. Yeah.
Everyone say hi to Copper's Cove native, Heisman Trophy winner Robert Griffin III. We'll see him on. He did a really fun intro at the Michigan-Colorado State game Saturday.
He did. I didn't see that.
If you haven't seen it, go to Twitter. It's there. It's phenomenal, high energy. Made me want to find a brick wall to run through. We'll see him Saturday in Provo. John, thank you so much.
Curtis, travel safe.
I appreciate you as well. That's this week's Big 12 Breakdown. We'll see you right back here next week. No, you're fine. I'm very out of it because I didn't get home until I was like, okay, what are we going to talk about, like, on the drive up here? And I was like, well, maybe not.
It's good. Very prepared.
Just stop the stream on this end.
Okay. I'm going to run.
I appreciate you. Sorry we were late.